All right, here we go on a Sunday morning. And to me and many of us out there, it's one of the most special Sunday mornings of the year. So let me start by wishing all the dads out there a very happy Father's Day. Just after 8 o'clock, I'm Bryan Feldman, and this is Outta Line. We are here same time every week on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM. The pre- and hopefully one day post-pandemic flagship station of the Vegas Golden Knights. Also here and practicing social distancing, Chris Magnum Chapman, producer and locker room reporter for the Vegas Golden Knights radio network, and filling in for co-host Caleb Herring, the last UNLV quarterback to take UNLV to a bowl game. Caleb's stuck in California, so filling in our intern and social media director, Spencer the Wiz Ostrowski.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
Gotta love that. The only intern in the country with his own theme music. Hey, the show is also streaming live on the LV Sports Network. And if you are brave and want to see why we are on the radio and not television, you can see us on Facebook Live. The page is called Outta Line. That's OUTTALINE. And you can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Outta Line on Fox LV. Your calls are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
And they're into the stretch of the Belmont, and Tiz the Law has taken charge. Set down in the final furlong by Manny Franco. Tiz the Law's got a 2-length lead. Dr. Post has moved up on the outside into second. Pneumatic is third, but it is the New York hero, Tiz the Law, and Manny Franco to win the Belmont Stakes. They took it by 4 lengths in the end.
Yeah, Tiz the Law. Tiz the Law, seriously. It was in third position for most of the Belmont and just ran away with it down the stretch. Ended up winning by, as you heard, by 4 lengths. No fans. And check it out. Pretty cool. The first New York bred horse to win the Belmont since 1882 when Forrester did it. He was the clear-cut favorite, ridden by jockey Manny Franco. And let me tell you something. After watching that, the Belmont, kind of unique to all of us, hearing the Belmont is the first leg of the Triple Crown. But it was, and the next 2 legs will be in September. They'll run the Kentucky Derby, I believe, on the 5th. And then they run the Preakness in October.
Yeah, very strange set of circumstances, obviously. I knew it was yesterday. I don't really watch horse racing. Don't care. But I did see some of the stuff, and maybe if there had just been like the Belmont Stakes as opposed to like a bunch of races before, like I don't really care. But it is kind of strange to me that the Belmont is the first, and they shortened it, right? Like it's the first time in
forever,
100 years that it's been under a certain length, and it's the first time in over 100 years that a New York horse has won.
Well, that's what I said. It's really a cool thing.
So I think there's only 4 in the history, and they've been running this thing since like the 1880s or whatever. And that is kind of cool. The problem is horse racing is a very niche sport, and it's slowly dying.
Well, I don't know,
but here's the thing, though. Usually people get excited around the Derby, right? Like, all right, there's excitement, Derby. Then you have the Preakness 2 weeks later. And if that same horse that wins a Derby wins a Preakness, all of a sudden, people are really excited for the Belmont.
Right.
Now you have the Belmont, and then 5 months or 4 months down the road, you're going to have the Derby. Whatever excitement there was for this horse is going to be long gone by the time.
I disagree with you. I think, if in fact we don't have a second wave of the coronavirus and the Derby does run, I think it'll be exciting because this horse, Tiz the Law, I didn't watch it live. I ended up watching it online. Matter of fact, late last night, actually late yesterday afternoon after the race was run. And I'm telling you, this horse is exciting. The Belmont still has been shortened, but it's still longer than the other 2 races. And if you win the Belmont, you got a pretty good chance. This horse could have closed much earlier. Just really liked it. Dr. Post finished second, Max Player, and then a long shot Pneumatic, who looked like he was going to place or show, ended up kind of fading right at the end. But another really cool thing is Barclay Tagg is now the oldest trainer to ever win at the Belmont Stakes, 82 years young. So that's pretty cool and ironic. My father's 82, and speaking of that, you'll learn a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But also, what's on tap, just so you know, whether purchasing a new home or refinancing the home you already own, Residential Bancorp is the company to turn to for all your home financing needs. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. And as you heard on tap, it's pretty cool about the Belmont Stakes that ran. Again, no fans, but at least there was one leg of a Triple Crown that did run in 2020. I'm not sure there'll be two more. We're going to talk a lot more about that. And, of course, I mentioned it is Father's Day, and my father will be joining the show. 82 COVID-19 survivor and still a practicing physician in Madison Heights, Michigan. Pretty damn cool. I'm going to do everything I can to hold my emotions. You guys know I can be a sap. I've never let the radio audience hear that. Hopefully I can hold it together. If not, man, please pick up the pace for me. But, hey, fact this, which is coming up in a second, there will be major professional sports franchises playing sports in this country. And the question is, will it or will it not happen? We'll find out in a little bit. Actually, I don't know. We'll find out today, but we definitely will talk about it. And listen, if you're looking to buy a home again or to refinance the home you are in, choose a company you can trust. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. That is what's on tap.
Fact this. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
Yeah, it's a fact. There is still no guarantee that any of the four major professional team sports in the United States and Canada will have a 2020 season. This is simply reality. And yet no one is just coming out and saying it. Baseball spring training officially halted. Dr. Fauci says NFL should consider a bubble format like the NBA, and yet the NBA players still have not officially said they're willing to play in the bubble in Orlando. So, guys, let me ask you something. We talked about this last week. We all had varying opinions. I said no to 3 of the 4 majors. I said yes to football just because I thought there was enough time. But now looking at it, even talking to my father the other day, there's potentially a second wave of this, as we've all heard, and it would fall right in September or October. So, I just don't know how you do any of this stuff. And then you've got like Talladega, where they're letting fans in today, 5,000 fans. They're going to have to enforce the Confederate flag rule, which is going to be very interesting because if you are displaying a Confederate flag on your vehicle or on your person, you get rid of it, you change your clothes, or you get the hell out. And I love it, Chris.
Good. Yeah, I mean, one of the things. We'll start with the second wave thing. I don't know if we are going to get a second wave because we're still in the first wave. Like we have perfect example. Watch the news. See what transpired in Oklahoma yesterday. Nobody wearing a mask. People in a arena with 13,000 people in there. Oklahoma right now, especially the Tulsa area, is a hot spot, right? Like that's what they're saying. This is an area that was a hot spot. So really stupid idea, and we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. Then you had these protests, which apparently they're saying weren't really a major reason for the spike. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's just what they're saying because I guess it was outside. The outside aspect is good. If that's true, then good. The problem is Spain and Italy have said that a soccer game caused 40,000 cases in those two countries. So the outdoor venues may not be what we're hoping for. There's just not enough information. The big thing that's troubling to me is you look at all these college programs that are all going back. Clemson had.
There is not going to be college football this year. People face it. There's just not going to be.
Yeah, Clemson had 23 cases, I think, 25 cases. Texas has had at least 13. Oklahoma saying they're saying that they've had at least 1. And Lincoln Riley has been on the conservative side of this, saying, hey, you know what? We don't need to rush this. I don't know, man. I think hockey is trying to do it, but now they've had a bunch of tests. I mean, Tampa Bay had to shut down their facility the other day. Austin Matthews, I don't know how that got out that he was the one who tested positive, considering the NHL has not released any information on anyone else. He's in Arizona, where it's a hot spot. People from the Arizona Coyotes have tested positive. You've had multiple people.
We're going to talk about that during What's on Tap.
Yeah, multiple people from the Phillies and Blue Jays have tested positive at their spring training facilities in Florida. Multiple airport employees in Orlando have tested positive. I'm starting to lean towards we may not have anything, because as a country, and I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter to me at this point. as a country, when you look at how every other civilized nation on the planet has handled this, we have done the exact opposite.
Oh, we've handled like crap.
We have screwed it up from the beginning, and we're still screwing it up because we're impatient, we're entitled, and we're stupid. You look at Spain and Italy and England and France. France is going to let people back into a soccer game in July.
Well, allegedly right now, and they very well might. But just one other thing real quickly, wrapping up on NASCAR. It is the first NASCAR race since the crash of Ryan Newman at Daytona, one of the wickedest crashes we've seen. And then that amazing couple days later where he walked out of the hospital with his daughters. Pretty inspirational, I'm sure.
I thought they raced here.
Not in the super speedway. It's not a super speedway.
Oh, yeah, you didn't. So super speedway.
Super speedway, very first race. And like I said, what a Father's Day the Newman family is going to have this year, because after seeing that crash, you never thought that would happen. But social distancing, all the fans that will be in attendance will be required to wear masks, and it should be that's going to be interesting as well, because it's supposed to be hot as hell in Alabama today. So we'll see about that. And talking about Major League Baseball, the Major League Baseball's Players Association delayed its vote on the owner's return to the return to play proposal, and it's in the wake of the spring training coronavirus outbreaks. The union won't vote until it collects new data regarding COVID testing. All Major League Baseball training camps have been temporarily closed after multiple teams reported positive coronavirus. Like as Chris said a little bit ago, the Phillies, 5 players and 3 staff members. Toronto Blue Jays pitcher that's unnamed had symptoms the other day. The test results for him should be back today. And just yesterday, an Astros player in West Palm was tested positive for COVID. And again, there's just they're postponing it. And the NBA players have until Wednesday to opt out on the restart of the season in Orlando as concerns mount in Florida regarding the spike in coronavirus cases. Over 4,000 new cases on Saturday alone and approaching 94,000 in total. Adam Silver and Players Association Executive Director Michelle Roberts are closely monitoring this. But the bottom line is I can't see it happening. And it's crazy because it's in the wake of now another professional basketball is restarting in China after their coronavirus, but they're starting up in China today, so not in front of fans yet.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is they're starting, and that's a sport you wonder about.
Well, the NBA thing is interesting because I feel like people, especially in Vegas, have been like screaming for the NHL to announce the hub cities. The NHL, I feel, has gone about it the right way.
You got to save it because we got nightcap coming up, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the last, franchise, we'll talk about hockey. As I said, we have got our nightcap segment, but in the NFL, around 10 NFL teams have reported positive coronavirus tests for at least one of their players. NFL Player Association released a statement yesterday saying they are working on safety protocols for training camp in July, and until they advise against players working out together whatsoever. Once they hit training camp, the league is expected to test players up to 3 times a week. And it's the first NFL training camp report date. This time is supposed to be July 22nd, just 8 days before the NBA is scheduled to restart their season in the bubble in Orlando. Wiz, I haven't let you talk yet, so I'm going to let you speak right now. What do you think, man? Are we going to see any professional sports at all? And I'm not saying professional. We're seeing some NASCAR, golf, obviously. But I am talking about the 4 major team professional sports played in the United States and Canada. Are we going to see any one of them?
I think the problem is, we think about this logistically, how are they going to test the players? And that's a legitimate question. But you also have to think about it. What no one's talking about is the protocols for when players do test positive. Because we saw it with Rudy Gobert. When he found out he got positive, every team he had played that night, almost every player had tested positive as well. So what happens if, it's for sure, a player's going to get tested positive. So what do you do when they test positive? I don't know, because that just probably means everyone else has it already anyways. So you want to keep them in a bubble, but it's impossible. You can't.
So you're saying no sports, right?
I say no. Sports may start, quote unquote, but they're not going to finish.
I don't even see them starting at 9 o'clock tonight. Just by the way, talking about all this, the 2020 ESPYs are going to be on ESPN. I wonder how you pick awards for 2020. I mean, the bottom line in the NBA, the defensive player of the year, without question, Rudy Gobert. He shut down the entire league, and matter of fact, all of sports for that matter. So you want to talk about a better? I'm joking, but truly that got the whole thing rolling in professional sports. sports and really started the avalanche that is where we're sitting today. And again, like Chris said, a lot of people that don't watch horse racing are indifferent. It was probably the most watched Belmont Stakes of all time yesterday, by the way. I mean, there's nothing to watch, and people are going to watch it. I imagine at Talladega today, everybody will be tuned in. So, again, my take last week, I said all 3 of the 4 aren't going to play. I'm going to say right now, we are not going to see professional sports in 2020. You're hearing it here. We talked about it last week. Caleb has pretty much said the same thing. We all thought, basketball, they seem so intent on doing this, but I'm telling you, the players are prima donnas, man. Unless you find a very non-evasive test, these guys, they're not letting you stick a swab up their nose 3 times a week. Trust me. We'll talk to my dad about that in a minute, how comfortable that is. And you think these millionaire prima donna NBA players are going to let that happen or stick a swab down their throat 3 times a week? Not in a million years. Unless they discover some type of litmus test where you can touch their skin and say whether they're positive or not, you're not testing these guys more than once or twice during the season. They won't let it happen. It's too uncomfortable. They're prima donnas. Trust me on that, and no one talks about it. All right, I'm done with that. Let's get over to the phone lines because we got to stay on track for Alan Snell at 8:30, and I do not want to miss this call right now. Joining us on the Residential Bancorp Fox Sports studio line is my father, Dr. Erwin Feldman. It is Father's Day, and I wasn't sure, neither was my entire family, that we would be celebrating Father's Day. And I'll say it straight up. I mean, we know that. My father contracted COVID-19 back in April. He's home resting now. And as a matter of fact, last week he actually went back to work at 82 years old as a practicing physician, much to probably my entire family's dismay, as we'd rather not have that. But, Dad, what is going on? How are you, Dad? Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm fine. I'm feeling much better.
Dad, talk to me about this. Sports show, and we try to stick away from the COVID. You hear it everywhere. You can't walk away from it. But hearing from somebody that's in the medical profession and you experience this, how serious is this, Dad? I mean, it's amazing we're talking about professional sports getting back and 44,000 new cases in Florida yesterday. Are people taking this too lightly, or are we not taking it? Are we taking it too seriously?
Oh, I don't think that. I think we're not taking it seriously enough. I think that people cannot be in crowds. It's too easy to contact the virus. And I think if this continues and people just go out and don't follow all the rules, I think they're going to have another spike of the episode by September or October.
That's what we keep hearing. And Dad, experiencing this yourself, I mean, when you first contracted it, I mean, obviously all of us that love you greatly were to say that I shut down for a day or two in Vegas. If you talk to my friends, that would be probably the understatement of the century, knowing me and what an emotional sap I can be. But what was it when you first, you heard you had it, Dad? I mean, what was it like? You're 82 years old. Let's be realistic. You're just about to turn 82 at the time. As being a medical profession, pre-existing conditions, having your a pacemaker, you've had a valve replaced, and you survived this and never even went on a respirator. But when you first heard you contracted it, what went through your head?
When I first got sick, I went in the emergency room. I was so sick I thought I was going to die. But the care was tremendous in the hospital, and I just got better. I can't explain to you why. I think it's just the luck of the draw.
Well,
I think that some people are more luckier than other ones, and I don't know if they fight harder or if they just get better. It's really hard to say. Even as a doctor, I can't tell you much about this virus because I don't think we took it seriously enough when it first started.
Yeah,
But now I think everybody's starting to get out and do things now, and I'm not sure if they don't follow the rules. I'm not sure how bad this will get again.
Yeah, you got a really good point, Dad. And trying to go into the stores. It's not that hard to wear the mask, people. And if you're not protecting yourself, you're helping to protect other people. And I've said it all along. Just keep following the rules. This is no joke, and we haven't done it real well in the United States. And the most disconcerting thing, Dad, is like what you said. There's nothing you can really tell people as far as what to look for. When I asked you a couple months ago, what can we look for? I can tell my children what's a sign, like a first symptom, and you're like, there's like 20 of them, and they could all be something else. So crazy stuff, Dad. Moving away from that, I want to talk to you about Father's Day itself. You know, a tremendous meaning to me as a person. Just you know what you've meant to me in my life, and where I sit today, the things I've done is just a reflection of what a father is supposed to be. And the days were so meaningful to me, not just, you know, to have you still in my life, but to teach me what it was like to be a father and be able to pass that on to my kids, who I'll be spending the day with in a little while here in Las Vegas. And, of course, my dad, Dr. Erwin Feldman, right now in Farmington Hills, Michigan, on the phone with us. And pretty cool, Dad, but talking about some great Father's Day memories. And we'll talk about your favorite sports memory ever on a Father's Day, if you can remember. And I'll remind you of one, and it might be one of your favorite. But for me, my favorite memory, Dad, and for our family members, and I'll bet, you know, a lot of our family members are listening today as I kind of, let them know that you were going to be on the show. But I don't know if all of them know that in 1996, Dad, I got us a couple of credentials to go to the U.S. Open at Oakland Hills. And you remember that, I'm probably pretty sure. We got to go on Thursday, and my father and I got to walk around and experience something that probably very few people have. Not only a great camaraderie heading into Father's Day weekend, but we got to go to the Open, and we followed Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods for 18 holes on Thursday. Tiger was an amateur. If you talk to my father and ask him who his favorite athlete of all time is, it is Jack Nicklaus. He loves the Golden Bear, always has. Probably made me love the Golden Bear the way I do. But, Dad, how cool was that? And what do you remember about that walk around Oakland Hills and seeing Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods play together? How iconic was that?
That's one of my best sports things ever. I thought it was terrific, and it was a great day. And I don't know if you remember or not, but when we finished the 18 holes with Nicklaus and them, Nicklaus was walking into the clubhouse. And I think we talked to him for a couple minutes. Yeah, we was talking about how his back was killing him, and I still remember that.
Yeah, Dad. I was going to.
That weekend was one of the best sports weekends I ever had.
Dad,
I was there every day, and that was terrific.
It was pretty cool. And, the only anticlimactic thing about the whole weekend was Steve Jones winning the tournament. I'd never heard of the guy, really, and he wins his only U.S. Open. You got all these big names, and it ends up being Steve Jones at 1 under par. I mean, the rough, walking through the rough, you couldn't see your feet at Oakland Hills, and you really learned how difficult they make. You know, if you go out of play in the U.S. Open, you understand why the scores are so high. They really make the courses as difficult as can be, and that North course at Oakland Hills is probably one of the tougher courses in the country when they make the rough course, tough. But about that with my dad and I, we actually walked with Jack Nicklaus for a few seconds, talked to him, and then afterwards my dad and I go sit down and we ate in the clubhouse. And Dad, I don't remember this. We're sitting there, we're watching on television, and we see Jack Nicklaus outside the clubhouse signing autographs. Now, being a member of the media, I am not allowed to get autographs in any way, shape, or form, but I took off my media credential, went into the media tent, grabbed a card and a picture I had, and while my dad was eating, I told him I had to go to the bathroom, and I went out and got those two autographed by Jack Nicklaus, and then gave that to my dad with his credential and all that for Father's Day. But Dad, I'll never forget it. It is without question my favorite Father's Day weekend ever. But my favorite sporting event on a Father's Day, and if you remember this, Dad, and I want to see if you remember one. But how about 2008 when Tiger Woods basically on one leg forced that playoff on Father's Day Sunday with Rocco Media, and of course the next day went out and walked 18 holes on one leg and beat him in the playoff. But that was one of the most incredible performances ever. The guy couldn't walk, and you know what it's like, Dad, with a bad back and a torn knee to try to play that game of golf and to play at the level he did in 2008. One of my favorite memories of all times on Father's Day.
Yeah, that was terrific. I follow Tiger Woods today, just like I did with Jack Nicklaus years ago. The two of them just made golf a tremendous game to watch and to play. I whenever Tiger's playing, I make sure I watch it, just like I did when Nicklaus played.
I know, Dad. Both of our favorite memories, and we talked about it before we've had you on the show. That back nine in 1986 by Jack Nicklaus at Augusta is probably my favorite, if not my favorite all-time sporting event. It's in the top 5. I've never seen anyone play the back nine like he did. At one point, I believe it was Seve Ballesteros had a 4-stroke lead with like 4 holes or 5 holes to play, and Jack just tore the back nine up, and it was it got me into watching golf, and since then I've been a fanatic like you when it comes to watching it. I just wish I had half the game you had. My dad was kicking my ass on a golf course when he was in his 70s, and I was in the prime of my life. I mean, my dad just could play the game, and I always sucked at it, but, you can't be good at all sports. But, Dad, real quickly before I let you go, I just want to say to you, on behalf of our entire family, we're so happy that you're with us. Father's Day again, to have you here, and and I can't wait to see you soon. Once all this crap ends, and hopefully we get back to at least some type of a new normality. I definitely want to get to Detroit and see you again. But Dad, a lot of our family members are listening out there, and I want to ask you, Dad. Your entire life, all the sporting events and everything you've seen. What's your favorite event? Your favorite sporting event that you can ever remember? My God, there's been many of them.
There's a lot of sporting events, but I still think the U.S. Open, Jack Nicklaus that we were talking about, is still my favorite one. Yeah, golf is my favorite sport, and I have to put that at the top.
I appreciate that, Dad. Once again, happy Father's Day to you. I can express it all day long. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for our family. Incredible, and Dad, thank you. You've been the guiding light for all of us for so long, and the moniker, the torch, and I know that all of our family listen. My Aunt Sissy, my Aunt Heidi out there, your sisters, my sister Pam, my brother Paul and Matt, and anyone else I'm forgetting, my sister Sally, everyone who's listening out there. I know, Dad, we are so thrilled and honored, and I was telling my good friend Ben, who's actually in our break room in the green room here in the other room, who's in town visiting from Texas, who lost his father a few years back, how blessed I am. And sometimes I forget how fortunate we all are to have had you this time. And Dad, you got to stick around, so maybe reconsider the going back to work. I know you love it, and just please take care of yourself out there. Be safe, and keep doing what you do, Dad.
All right, Bryan, it's good talking to you. I love you. And take care of yourself.
Love you too, Dad. We'll talk to you soon. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, Alan Snell, lvsportsbiz.com, talking about his new book. This is Outta Line. We'll see you in about 2.5 minutes. Mags with some good coming out of commercial music, man. That got me moving. I like it. You're listening to Outta Line, Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, KRLV's flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm Bryan Feldman in studio. To my right on your radio dial, I have Spencer the Wiz Ostrovsky.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
Directly in front of me, working the wheels of steel, Chris Magnum Chapman. And, of course, on the phone, as I mentioned, our guest today, and one of my good friends and one of the most inspirational guys in Las Vegas. He is absolutely everywhere. And if you haven't checked out lvsportsbiz.com yet, you're really missing out. I mean, if you want your pulse on everything sports, and especially business sports related information in Las Vegas, man, this is the guy to follow and to watch. And, of course, a very successful website, very successful career as a journalist, and just released another book, and it is called Bicycle Man, Life of Journeys by Alan Snell. And, of course, Alan Snell, a bicycle enthusiast, has been through just almost lived 2 or 3 different lives right now with what he's been through, surviving a horrific bicycle crash down in Florida himself, which brought him back to Vegas, ultimately wrote a book about that as well. Alan, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, Bryan, it's great to speak with you again, and happy Father's Day, and great chat with your own dad. That was really great to hear.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I'm surprised I held it together. I can be a sap here. It's tough, man. I had to prepare myself for it last night. But, Alan, this new book, and I know you're out. Where are you at right now? Alan's always on his bike, and I know you're out on your bike right now. Where are you at?
I actually took a break at the North Tower Park in Summerlin, right off of Far Hills Road. So it's a beautiful setting here, lots of trees and grass. It's amazing. We're in the desert, but I'm surrounded by green and trees, so it's a nice little setting here.
You know, it's nice that your passion, your life's passion, doesn't really get affected by everything going on. You can do that, social distance, and enjoy something you love to do, which is, you know, something a lot of people cannot say right now during this time in our lives. But talk to me about Bicycle Man and Life of Journey. Did you plan on doing this, and just the fact that you had the pandemic and some maybe a little bit of extra time on your hand promote you getting it done now?
Combination of all that, Brian. I've been looking to put together a book on my bicycle travel stories I've written over a lifetime. For literally 20 years, I've bicycled across the country twice solo, wrote stories from the road, did feature pieces on people I met along the road in places that you'd never ever guess you'd never be there by car, but you can only get there by bicycle. And when the pandemic hit, I just told myself I need to get something positive out of this horrible situation. And I decided at night to basically go back to my old bicycle travel stories and put together a compilation, a journal of basically more than 40 bicycle travel pieces that I've written over the last 37 years. And it is just, I think, I'm really proud of the bunch of stories. I had to find some stories I had to find online. Others I had the hard clips, and I had to type them back into my laptop. And at the end of the day, I figured out how to organize and structure the book. That was kind of the big code to crack, so to speak. And it was March 23rd, actually. I wrote the introduction, and the book ended on May 1st. I wrote the epilogue on May 1st. And in between, you have 272 pages, and I think people would really enjoy reading these stories about life living basically with the bicycle as your vehicle.
I cannot wait to read it myself. I enjoyed your last book, and extremely inspirational, the last book, when you listen to your journey back after the injury and how it all transpired and unfolded, and the fact that the man that hit you expired himself not long after that. Just an incredible, inspirational story, and I can't wait to read this one as well. Of course, if you're interested in getting a copy of Bicycle Man, Life of Journeys, you can a couple of ways. Definitely go to the website, lvsportsbiz.com. Become one of 350,000 readers that Alan has accumulated in just 3 years, coming up on his 3-year anniversary in 2020. Really cool. The membership donations go to a special charity. And Alan's just a great guy. And I'll tell you what, I can't wait to read this. Check it out. Snel@lvsportsbiz.com is his email, or go to the website, lvsportsbiz.com, and follow the instructions. You can get yourself a copy of the book. Alan, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, aside from the book, is you have really done great comprehensive coverage of Allegiant Stadium and the construction. And the one thing the pandemic has not done has curtailed the construction of the stadium. I drive down the 15 now, and I am in awe looking at probably one of the most modern and state-of-the-art facilities in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, speaking of bicycling, I bicycle down there every few days just to kind of see what's going on, and you can the work they do both inside and outside the venue is amazing. Like you said, despite the pandemic, they've forged ahead, and I think they've had about 7 workers test positive for the pandemic, and they've isolated those workers, and they keep on. It looks like they're supposed to be ready July 31st. And there's no reason why it seems like that schedule won't be met. And the question is, will the football schedules be affected, and will fans be allowed in the building?
I was going to say, my question was going to be is, will that building eventually have a bunch of black widows in it by the time somebody actually plays a sporting event in there? Alan, your finger's on the pulse of Vegas and sports in general, like all of us. We sat here last week, me and Caleb and Chris and Spencer, and all kind of gave our opinion on will there be professional team sports, major team sports, in the United States and Canada in 2020. And last week, I had 3 of 4 saying no, and I'm starting to lean towards 4 of 4 saying no. Baseball, again, put the brakes on, and NBA players have till Wednesday to make a decision. I think they're going to come back and say we don't want to play. I just think we're just seeing spikes all over the place. What's your take on that? Do you think we're going to see major professional team sports in this country in 2020?
Gosh, that is a difficult question. Short answer is one word, and that is no. I just things don't look good. You actually did a great job summarizing the situation in Florida with the Tampa Bay Lightning shutting down their camp, the Phillies shutting down their workout at their spring home in Clearwater, Dunedin closing camp when a player showed symptomatic situation. And, Bryan, I think our country has to get our priorities in order. You spoke with your dad about how he survived COVID-19. If you do not have your health, you do not have anything. I can't stress this enough, and believe me, I got my health taken away from me because of a distracted motorist who slammed into me from behind in Florida. I was nearly killed, came back. Well, there is nothing more valuable in your life. Nothing really means anything unless you have your health. This country has to kind of get serious about getting over this pandemic. We got to put the mask on. We have to be smart about social distancing. I know people want to go out. I know people don't want to be inconvenienced. But guess what? We're up against virus, and we're up against science, and we're up against a virus we don't really know much about. This thing is relatively new since December. So, sports is fantastic. Look, there's nothing more fun than hanging out with you, Bryan, at a UNLV basketball game and watching the live action, three rows off the court and just and laughing and talking about sports. But we have to get our priorities in order. Number one, health is it has to be the most important thing in your life. Prioritize health, 1, 2, and 3.
I couldn't agree with you more, Alan. And, it is about getting your priorities. And, yes, we're all jonesing for live professional sports. It's going to be very interesting. What's your thoughts before I let you go? I'm sure you heard that at the Talladega Motor Speedway today, they are letting 5,000 fans in, and it is going to be the first time that NASCAR is being forced to enforce the no Confederate flag rule. And if it's on your vehicle or on your person, it either is removed, changed, or you will be asked, and not asked, you'll be forced to leave the facility. Interesting all the way around on several fronts, but what do you think about them letting 5,000 fans in when we just found out there were 4,000 cases in Florida, which is one of the hottest states in the country right now, so the heat doesn't seem to be deterring the virus?
Man, Bryan, you hit on two powerful issues that have converged. The COVID-19 pandemic and the racial equality protests sweeping the country and the reforms going on. And like you said, they're coming together, they're converging over at the NASCAR track. I just hope they're practicing social distancing. I hope they have the masks on. I hope they're being smart. It is true. The NASCAR venues are humongous. They are gigantic venues on big spread out locations. Look, if people are social distancing and if they have the masks, look, I guess you can get away with it. I'd be very careful. And you also had a big issue on the Confederate flag issue. We'll see what happens with that, too. I'm just as curious about that as well, Bryan.
Yeah, they're supposed to be policing it. NASCAR is working with people at the track, and they are going to do their best to police it. But it's going to be interesting with a limited number of fans, 5,000. It shouldn't be that difficult now. It's going to be more interesting if and when we get back to normal and trying to police it when you have 100,000 people at a NASCAR event and trying to keep all of them, because you are going to have your rebels, literally and figuratively, that will find a way to fly it and then pull it down just to rebel. And I hope we don't have a lot of idiots like that, but we do. He is Alan Snel, the main man behind LVSportsBiz.com, his finger on the pulse of everything sports business related in Las Vegas, author, columnist. Alan, always appreciate your input on the show. Please keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Love it, and look at the impact. And how cool is it we met 3 years ago at watching the Vegas Golden Knights make one of the most incredible runs by an expansion, not even one of the most incredible run by an expansion franchise in history in a major professional sports. You were back then talking about how excited you were about being 50,000 readers strong, and now you're over 350,000 readers strong. That is awesome, my friend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. It's true. We celebrated our third anniversary. We were moving into year 4, and obviously the Raiders Stadium is a huge issue. And, Bryan, keep on your great work every Sunday morning. It's really fun to hear you. And as you know, I love the passion that you bring to the radio. I know you've been doing this a long time. You're a veteran of this craft. So I just love your passion. I love the way you buy into every nuance of the sports scene on these Sunday mornings. And you cram in a lot in 1 hour. I give you credit, man.
You got to talk fast to do that. I said if I didn't do this, I'd be an auctioneer. He is Alan Snell, lvsportsbiz.com. Appreciate you. We're going to take our second break. On the other side, we're going to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights and a little bit about the NHL. S&B with C won't be this week. We just talked about Allegiant Stadium, but that coming up, and we'll try to sneak in a little bit about the Belmont and the WNBA. Are they going to play? We'll find out.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
Yeah, training camps beginning on July 10th will last 2 weeks before traveling to the assigned hub city. More on the location of these bubble locations should be announced in the coming weeks, but a tentative date for a return to hockey is, I guess, a welcome sign. The news comes a day after multiple players and personnel within the Tampa Bay Lightning organization tested positive for a novel COVID virus, I should say for coronavirus at the team's facility. Cases in the states such as Florida, Texas, and Arizona have skyrocketed in recent weeks, which could spell trouble for the league's resumption. Every team from those respective states, the Lightning, Panthers, Stars, and Coyotes, will be ducking it out for the coveted Stanley Cup. And Chris, I just don't know, man. We talked about this, and I know you've got some opinions, you've got some information, and you usually have your finger on the pulse as good as anybody, as you spend a lot of time in the locker room with the Golden Knights when they are playing. I don't see it.
At this point, I'm skeptical, but I will say this. The NHL is doing this the right way. Like, everybody is clamoring for the NHL to announce the hub cities. Now, it sounds like they've whittled their list from 10 to 6. What I feel that the NHL has done, and maybe the NBA should have done it as well, you wait until you know for sure how things are going to be in the places you're going to do this. Right now, things in Canada are a lot better than they are in America. Seems that Vancouver and Edmonton have kind of taken, from what I've read, Vancouver and Edmonton have kind of taken a little bit of a lead over Toronto.
Yeah, it's going to one of the hub cities.
The
is going to
NHL
be
wants
in
to
Canada.
do it.
Yeah,
Canada and the United States.
for sure.
The problem that the NBA ran into is they announced Orlando like 2 weeks ago. Well, Florida never shut down because their governor is a buffoon. He's an idiot.
94,000 cases.
Well, I mean, the thing is, he's an idiot. And the thing is, right now, Orlando and the area between Tampa and Orlando, which isn't very far, it's about an hour and a half between the two, Tampa, Orlando have become hotspots. Now, I understand you're going to try to isolate players as much as you possibly can. Problem is, there's people who work at this resort. There's older people, coaches, officials. What are we going to do about them? Now, the NHL has said that they're not going to do face shields. So I don't know about that. But, like, hypothetically, if the NHL announces Vegas last week like it was reported, well, we had our we have had like 3 of our highest amounts of cases in single day just in the last week.
Yeah, I know.
Now, we expected there, from everything I read, they expected there to be a jump.
There's free testing everywhere now, so a lot more people are getting tested, to be fair.
Well, that's the thing. But the thing is, you have a restaurant at the Bellagio being completely shut down because a kitchen worker tested positive. You had multiple people at the Flamingo test positive. So I don't know if there is a way to completely isolate these players and these team officials from the elements that are outside. I mean, Vegas is great because obviously T-Mobile Arena is right next to multiple hotels, New York, the Park MGM, both right there. I know a lot of the players stay in City Center when they're here for their games. So it's right there. It's easy to walk to. The problem is, I don't know if there is, and maybe this is just a reality we need to accept, there is not a 100% way to prevent players from getting sick. And at the end of the day, you're playing a sport. I understand you're being paid a lot of money to play a sport, but it's still a sport. Is it really that important? I say no, it's not.
I agree.
Because we know that Austin Matthews, one of the biggest stars in the game, has tested positive. We know that Ezekiel Elliott, one of the biggest stars in the NFL, has tested positive. Maybe they were asymptomatic. We don't know. But we do know they've tested positive. How that information got out there, at this point, it's bad that it's out there, but we know. We don't know the long-term effects. What if Austin Matthews has long-term lung issues from this, and it hampers his ability to play? You know, like I keep reading these stories from people who are my age and younger who are getting this, and they're talking about how long it takes them to be able to get back to normal. Weeks. I mean, Austin Matthews might be fine. He might not. We don't know.
Well, Chris, like listening to my father say, as a medical profession, he doesn't know what to tell people. So if that doesn't tell you, sum it up in one sentence, I don't know what does. I mean, they don't know what to tell you. Like I said, to have a doctor say, Dad, just something that I can give my kids to say, hey, if you got, if this is going on, you need to go get checked. And my dad said 20 things I can give you, and they all could be something else. Well, that's very disconcerting.
The thing is, like, the 14-day incubation period is really what's scary. Now, I've read that 97% of the people who get it show symptoms within the first 5 days. It extends to like 99% within 11 days, but there is that percentage of people who take 14 days for symptoms to show up. That is really scary when you're talking about playing sports. Because if these guys play 3 games in a week, one guy may not show any symptoms. He may not test positive. Then all of a sudden, one day he's positive. Yeah. You don't know how many people he's given it to.
That is the one thing, Chris, and I've said this time and again, is, the problem is the asymptomatic people walking around.
You get the flu, and you have the flu.
That's what I was saying. When you're sick. There are people that literally have an immunity to this right off the get-go, and they're walking around, basically blind and don't know it. And unfortunately, they can infect people that are not asymptomatic, that it can kill them. And that is the biggest problem in team sports. Every team sport, maybe baseball the least, but it isn't. They are in your face. Social distancing cannot exist in teams. I've said even baseball, sliding into second base, you have the umpire breathing over top of the catcher, his breath falling right down into his face. I mean, you cannot avoid this, and I just don't get it. I just don't see. Yes, there is an importance, but like Chris said, it's about sports, and the only one in the United States that is not taking a break from day one is the biggest capitalist here, and that's Dana White, who continues to make a fortune of money during the pandemic and doesn't give a crap about the health of everyone. Yes, they test him in that, but it's all about money and making his brand even more famous during this. And I'm sorry, it's kind of made me sick a little bit. But, I'm going to let that go. And one of these days we'll get Dana White on the show, and he can yell at me and tell me how wrong I am about the fact that he pays his fighters like crap. And in 20 years when these guys are walking around brain dead in the streets, we'll talk about it then, and no lack of pensions. But that's a story for a different subject. Guys, we run out of time here again. We're not going to have the S&B with C, but I think both of you, Spencer, have you had a chance to check out Allegiant Stadium? Have you driven down the 15 and seen what it looks like?
It's hard to miss. Like, no matter where you are, it's very noticeable from a far distance. It's so like magical. It looks like Disneyland or something like that I just want to go inside and look at everything. So it's exciting.
Yeah, how cool is it for someone like you to see that's growing up here in Las Vegas and a city that has been without professional sports? I mean, the closest thing to professional sports they had before the Golden Knights arrived really was the 51s that, before that, the Las Vegas Stars and now the Aviators. But that was our professional sports franchise, was a AAA baseball team. And now, the Golden Knights for 3 seasons, well, 2.5 anyways. The Raiders coming. How exciting is that for a young guy in Las Vegas?
I think the funny part is that people usually move to the cities where their favorite teams are, but in my case, they moved to me. So, and also I've heard rumors that the Grizzlies are coming to Vegas as well. So it looks like I'm a magnet for all my favorite teams to just come play in my city.
Well, they're here, man. That is Spencer the Wiz Ostrovsky.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
Our our intern and social media director. I also want to thank Chris Magnum Chapman, producer and locker room reporter for Vegas Golden Knights Radio Network. I'm Bryan Feldman, the host of the show, and of course to our guest today, Alan Snel, lvsportsbiz.com, and my father. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you, Dr. Irwin Feldman. I also want to wish a very special happy birthday real quick to a great friend of my family. Unbelievable. She is part of our family, Annette Parnello. Happy birthday to you out there in Michigan. Godspeed, and please stay healthy. All kinds of health issues she has had. Once again, we'll be back next week. Caleb Herring back in studio with us. Thank my buddy Ben for hanging out the whole time in the green room. I'm Bryan Feldman. This is Out of Line. We're out. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Happy Father's Day.